I forgot where my camera is. I do this every time. We move things around so much. Anyway, I'm Typo T-Rex. Oh dear, my mic just started working better.
And I'm Typo Zane Free. And
Oh yeah, I forget you don't get a camera.
I
for
don't.
You. Yeah, but we're doing something not like super different today, but a little different today. We're doing a deck profile for your what is it, Victini VMAX?
Victini VMAX, yes. Okay, so to start, we'll go over some of the Pokemon. I'm trying to get them in a somewhat.
Oh yeah, because when we break the deck down, it's called crippling it. So I had crippled it to where everything was in order. And then you're like, oh, well, I want to shuffle and do a couple of test hands. And it's like, oh, yeah, we're doing this. So now I have to do this whole thing over again.
It's okay. I got it. All right. So to start, we're going to go with some of the basic cards that, every deck should be running, which are basically just 2 Crobat and 2 Dedenne. I mean, basically, these just make your draws more consistent. And you definitely want, every deck wants draws, right?
Yeah.
So, some decks run 1 of each, some decks run 2 of each. I have enough room to run 2 of each, so I run 2 of each because, they're too good to not run.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they basically just make it to where you don't have to rely on supporters to draw cards. So you run 2 of those. Then on top of that, we'll get some of the obvious ones out of the way. This is a Victini deck. So you run 4 Victini V.
So I have a question. Why did you choose to play 4 copies of that Victini V and none of the other Victini?
What do you mean?
There's another Victini V that exists. Is there any particular reason that you played for that one and not the other one?
To be honest with you, no. I just went with the one that was in the deck list.
Okay.
But I know this Victini does a little bit more damage with its 1 energy attack if it's against a V Pokemon. And Flare Shot does 120. That's not bad. The only thing that sucks is that it's a V Pokemon, which means that it has 100 really suboptimal HP in this meta, where everything is doing 240 and stuff like that. It's not the best, so you don't really want that to be an attacker.
Yeah, it's there for the next Pokemon.
Yes, the next Pokemon is Victini VMAX. Victini VMAX is really good. If you're trying to set up other things in the deck, you can use Spreading Flames, which lets you take 3 fire energy from your discard and put them onto any Pokemon on your bench any way you like. On top of that, Max Victory is super good. If you're hitting a V Pokemon, you're guaranteed to be swinging for 220 every turn, which is really solid damage. And in general, it's just really good. It only requires 2 energy to attack. So as where this is a fire deck. So it obviously, runs Welder, but Welder isn't the most necessary thing in the world because I only need 2 energy to attack. So I can ramp very quickly and just start swinging. So yeah, Victini VMAX, really solid. It's definitely not as good as it's going to be. Whenever rotation happens, Victini VMAX will only get better.
Yeah, because there won't be GXs and stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you do when someone plays Zamazenta against you and that's your primary attacker?
So we run some things where, like Reshiram, for example, that absolutely shreks on that thing.
True, very true.
We also run, this is not my Heatran, this is your Heatran.
Yeah.
I have not gotten my Heatran in yet. But we also run things like Heatran as well.
Also, the nice thing about Heatran is it can one-shot ADP if you have enough energies on the board.
Correct, yeah. I think the most damage I've ever done with Heatran was 350.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically these two have really clear and obvious energy. If you're trying to set up Reshiram, you want to get at least 6 energies on it so you can use GX attack. But then you decide, I actually really need to hit for 350 right now.
Yeah.
Then you just, retreat or switch or whatever, and you put all those energy onto Heatran, and then Heatran just gets to hot burn and it does so much damage.
Yeah, because if you can cut ADP off before he gets to ramp up your other Pokemon, it puts the other dude in a really bad position.
Yes.
Right.
Additionally, we have... So this deck, its main goal is to take cheap prize cards. It wants to take those prize cards as fast as possible, so it's basically making the game extremely fast-paced. Which are decks that I really like to play. In Hearthstone, I played Murloc Paladin, if anybody is familiar with that, which basically did the same thing. So you run things like Cramorant.
Yeah, and that's to snipe Dedennes almost specifically
Yeah,
because it
pretty
does
much.
exactly 160.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for. And
Yeah.
that's 2 free prize cards,
Yeah.
It's really good. So that's pretty much just a cheese factor. Then you run Eldegoss because this is a fire deck. We have welders here.
Yeah, or
again,
grabbing boss. Like
yeah, or
there's
grabbing boss.
like being able to search for a boss's orders is phenomenal.
Yes, it's really
Yeah.
good. And then this deck does actually really struggle against things like Rapid Strike and Inteleon. So you run bench barrier Mew.
Yeah.
So those are the Pokemon that you run. And in terms of trainers, these are not in order, and it's going to take me way too long.
Here, you want to hand them to me? Go.
Yeah, we'll talk about stadiums right now. So we have you run 3 Giant Hearth. This is just super obvious because in fire decks you don't really need most of the time when decks run energy acceleration, they run a Pokemon for it, like Frostmoth, Houndoom, for example, are all like Pokemon that are they in themselves are the energy acceleration for decks. And in fire decks, you don't really need to do that because you have Giant Hearth where you can get 2, free fire energy basically for discarding a card. And then on top of that, if you have Welder, then you can attach up to 3 energy in a turn.
Yeah.
So you don't really need any Pokemon to do any energy acceleration for you. So Giant Hearth is really good for this deck.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing a fire deck and you're not playing Giant Hearth, like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Welder. Again, like, Welder isn't the most necessary thing in the world for this deck, but, like, you're running a fire deck. You have to run Welder.
Yeah.
All right, so in terms of trainers, we have 4 Pokemon Communication. This is like one of the main ways to search for a Victini VMAX in this deck because I'm not running any Evolution Incense.
Yeah.
You don't really need it because the only thing you're evolving is Victini VMAX.
And I think Communication is the superior card over Evolution Incense right now because it does let you grab either a basic or the Evolution.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in this deck, basics are very important. Literally everything is a basic except for Victini VMAX, which is also why we run 4 Quick Ball.
I mean, I feel like that's just Pokemon right now.
That's
like
pretty
you
much.
have to play 4 Quick Balls.
Yeah, if you're not running 4 Quick Ball, then you're kind of trolling.
Yeah.
Let me get these out of the way. So next we have Pokégear. Now, you run Pokégear for a few different reasons. You run 4 of them, by the way. You run Pokégear for a few different reasons. Obviously you want Welder. Welder is just too good to not have in your hand. But you also want to search for things like bosses, to get those really key knockouts. So Pokégear is really solid in this deck because it is somewhat reliant on supporters. Not really, but the supporters
I feel like
use in clutch moments. The Pokégear is really useful.
Every deck needs supporters, so being able to search for them is just really good. And if you have the space for it, like, why not?
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that sucks is it basically operates like Great Ball, but for supporters, which is really lame. But if you have multiple Pokégear in your hand, you can play a Pokégear. There's no supporters. You shuffle your deck, and then you play another one and hope you get one.
And then you're already playing, so many other ways to thin out the deck that for you to whiff on like any turn other than first turn, something completely wrong has happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So next we will talk about Escape Rope and Switch, which are all basically in the deck for the exact same reason, and that is Heatran.
Yeah.
You really want to be able to switch Heatran for free, preferably, because you don't want to have to use your retreat cost to get rid of the energy that you want to attach onto Heatran. And Switch and Escape Rope are both really good for that. You only run 2 Escape Rope because you ideally, or not really ideally, but almost certainly the Pokemon that you want to knock out is in the active slot. So you only run 2 because they're going to have to swap theirs as well. But then you just boss it back out and you're good to go. And Switch obviously just does what Escape Rope does, but without switching their Pokemon as well.
Switch is not Switch. Escape Rope is also kind of like a quasi boss's orders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you're like, I just need your big Pokemon to not be there. When I was playing the clay version of ADP, that's what I used it for a lot. It's like, I don't care what you put out as long as it's not that thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you run 2 Air Balloon, again, just to make switching around easier. Victini's retreat cost is actually 2. So that's actually really good. You don't have to, burn any energy.
Free retreat costs are really nice. Yeah.
Yes. Right, so now we'll talk about some supporters. You actually only, I don't have these in order.
I mean, there's only like 5 of them, so.
Yeah. All right, so you only run 2 professors, and that's because because you're running 2 Crobats, 2 Dedennes, and 4 Welder. You really don't need that many professors. So you only run the 2 because professors is too good to not run.
Yeah.
So you just don't, in this deck specifically, you don't need 4.
Like, if you don't have your welder, you're going to research.
Pretty much.
But if you have a welder, why would you not welder?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of welder, we will talk about that next because so again, this is a fire deck, and if you're not running welder, then you're kind of trolling. Because welder is just way too good to not run, and has really clear synergy with things like Giant Hearth, so you're guaranteed attaching 2 energy a turn with welder. Then you're drawing 3 cards on top of that. You don't even have to attach 2 energy to get those 3 cards. So it in general, it's just an absolutely crazy card, and it's like one of the best supporters in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like, I don't think there's any arguing with that. I think it's rotating out soon, actually.
It is actually rotating out.
Yeah.
So next we have the bosses. So again, this entire deck's game plan is to take cheap prize cards. So if you can boss out things like Crobat, boss out things like the Dedenne, boss out V Pokemon they're trying to set up or things like that. Bosses is really good.
Yeah, like boss wins games.
Yes.
Like, there was a while people like, I mean, boss is good, but is it that good? And it went from, well, we're playing 2 to, okay, well, maybe we should play 3 because 2 isn't enough.
Yeah.
And then if you're not playing 4, it's just like,
yeah.
well, like, where you at?
Now, one thing you will notice about this deck is I'm actually done talking about supporters. Is there is a distinct lack of Marnie.
Yeah.
And there's no Marnie because you're basically just replacing Marnie with Welder.
Yeah.
But I personally think that's more than good enough. As a really good trade. Welder is just so good. Yep. I'm not really gonna. I guess I'll just I'll try.
Be like, hey, fire energies. Here's the number.
Yeah. There's a bunch of fire energies.
How many?
12. There are
12. Supposed to be
energies.
12.
Yeah, supposed to be 12. I accidentally brought over 11 somehow. But yeah, there's 12 fire energy. You run that many because of things like Heatran and Reshiram. They both need 6 or 7 to do real damage.
And then I imagine you discard a lot too.
Yes,
I'll trade 1 for 2 off of a Giant Hearth. Or something like
exactly.
That,
Like you're discarding with Giant Hearth, discarding for Quick Ball, and things like that. Dedenne. So you're discarding a lot, and just running this many energy is a lot more consistent for you. The next thing I wanted to talk about is actually post rotation, like what this deck is going to look like after rotation. So the things that I can think of off the top of my head that are rotating are Hearth.
Yeah, Hearth and Welder. It's going to be kind of hard to play fire decks after that, honestly.
Mew is rotating. Let me try and get these back in the camera. My bad. Mew is rotating. Reshiram is rotating. Heatran's rotating. All of Welders are rotating. So I think basically what's going to happen to this deck is Marnie is going to be run in place of Welder.
Yeah.
And this is all assuming that Fires don't get any more support in Roaring Skies. Because I'm not going to lie to you, losing Giant Hearth and Welder are super detrimental.
Yeah, but they've reprinted Welder so many times already, so it'll
Yeah.
come back eventually.
Yeah, it'll come back eventually, but at least when rotation happens,
Yeah.
it may not be that great. Because I was actually looking at Pokemon cards.
Oh, you lose Pokemon Communication too. That's another
exactly.
big hit. Yeah.
And I was trying to look at Pokemon that energy accelerate for fire. There's 1, and it's a base Colossal.
Oh.
It's it's not great.
Yeah. I was gonna say Volcanion. That's actually something.
That's rotating too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's rotating.
So literally all of Fire's energy acceleration is rotating. But again, this deck is absolutely a deck that is only going to get better, or at least in terms of the thing that it mainly plays around, that being Victini VMAX.
Yeah.
Because everything is going to be a V. There's not going to be any GX Pokemon
anymore.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So you're going to be swinging really hard every turn. So that's why I built this deck, because it will only get better after rotation, despite the fact that it's losing so many cards. And I just have fun with it. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Because, again, I like to play... I've always been the type of card player that wants to play fast. I want to play Goblins in Magic if I ever did that, and things like that. So, this deck is just designed to, ramp on your opponent and hit really hard, really fast.
Yeah. So I think that's the end of the video. Before we go, if you missed any of the cards, so you don't have to watch the video a million times, it'll be in the description. I probably should have said that before we got to the deck list.
Yes.
But I always check the description, and no one ever does it. So that's something I always want to do when I do deck profiles. But I've been Typo T-Rex.
I've been Typo Zanefried.
You've been watching TypoHouseGames. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell. If you would like to, you can support us monetarily, because buying packs and doing box openings is extremely expensive. So check out my Cash App and PayPal in the description, and you can do that. But that's it for now. Bye, everyone.
Bye.